Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be working a little bit slower, getting into breath. Kind of like thinking about this as 3 levels of breath, trying to got our normal breath, bringing it down into that abdominal wall. Also want to bring that breath up into our thoracic, breathing up into the chest, upper back, out through the sides, as well as improving that breath down into the pelvic floor, pelvic bowl. So kind of thinking 3 levels of breath. We're going to go a lot slower today. I want to throw in the kind of when working with breath, especially if we're getting into slow, deep breaths for a prolonged period of time. Breath is going to have a direct relationship with our emotional regulation system, fight or flight, rest and restore, sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system. So anytime getting into deep breath, especially moving up into the chest, I want to pay attention to, any kind of emotional state, especially if we feel like we're, anxiety, anything that feels a little bit, overwhelming as far as our emotional state. If you're feeling that way, it's okay to tone down, bail out, kind of get more rest and restore. I don't want to necessarily work that big, expansive breath if it starts to feel a little triggering. So with all that, we're going slow, taking our time, doing light mobility associated with our breath. So let's get started. So starting off, we're gonna start with crocodile breath. I want to make nice big C shapes with the hands. Thumbs are going into that low back musculature. Index fingers are wrapping around to get a little bit into the abdominals, and the palms are pressing into that side body space. Hands are going below the rib cage and above the hip bone, so we're in that nice meaty section of the abdominal wall. I don't want to be on top of bone. I want to be on top of soft tissue. And we're going to think here we're wanting to expand that abdominal wall like we're breathing like a crocodile or like we're expanding a balloon. So on our inhale, I want to feel that inhale breath push out and away, forward into the abdominals, into the index fingers, back into the thumbs, and out through the sides. It'll be a light pressure, not a heavy pressure, but I want to feel that expansion through the hands. As we exhale, allow those hands to cinch down just a little bit to create some resistance for your next inhale. And we'll do a good 5 to 6 breaths. So inhale in through the nose. Exhale out through the mouth, drawing that navel into the spine. Feel those hands cinch down. And on that next inhale, see if you can feel those hands, those fingers starting to get pressed out and away lightly. As you exhale, notice if you're holding tension, extra tension in the neck and the shoulders, and try to allow the shoulders to soften. After 5 to 6 breaths, we're going to let our hands relax down to our sides, and we're going to get into some bowls of soup. So spreading the hands as wide as you can, spiraling those palms up to the ceiling. And we're going to work one side at a time. So I'm going to take that hand that's spiraled up, starting with right hand. I want to spiral that arm all the way in. I want to think about spiraling through those long bones of the arm all the way up to the socket of the shoulder. I want to feel that shoulder, that ball of the humerus spinning around in that shoulder socket. I don't want to get a lot of movement of the shoulder itself. I don't want the shoulder to roll forward, at least not at first. So I want to see how far can we spin the long arm bones, internal, then we're going to external, and then we'll go to the other side. We're exhaling as we spiral internal, Inhaling as we spiral back up. As we're getting into that breath related to our rotation of the arm, exhale as it spirals in. As we're opening up that palm, I want to see if we can bring that breath up into the upper chest. Kind of lifting up like we're breathing up into the clavicles. Exhale, feel that spiral in. Inhale, feel that lift up and expand out through the upper chest. As we start to feel a little looser through the shoulders, now I want to move both sides at the same time. So as I'm spiraling my right arm in, I'm spiraling the left arm up, and then reversing. I want to inhale as everything's kind of coming to center. Exhale as we think about like wringing out the cloth. As we spiral, opening on one side, closing internal on the other. Inhale as we unfold. Exhale as we wring out through the other side. At this point, we can start to allow those shoulder blades to round over. We're getting a little bit more change through the shoulders into that upper back. Good. And shake the arms out. Now we're going to get into our standing cat-cow. So still got hands spread wide. Arms are going to come down to the side a little bit more. I want to see if we can keep those palms spiraled up to the ceiling. And really, when they're spiraled up to the ceiling, my arms are straight down towards my hips. We're going to do a shrug as we inhale. Shrugging those shoulders up, spiraling the arms internal, and then we're going to reach arms forward as we continue to spiral those thumbs down so that we get a nice rounding of the upper back. We're also scooping the pelvis so we get this nice cat through the low back into the upper back as we exhale. Our inhale, we're shrugging back up as we spiral palms up to the ceiling, allowing the hands to come back towards the hips, and then reaching down as we inhale. And I want that inhale breath again. We're trying to bring that breath up into our upper chest, into that clavicular area. So I'm reaching down as I'm bringing breath up, which can feel a little counterintuitive. Exhale, shrug, spiraling forward, thumbs down. Nice scoop of the pelvis. Belly is drawing in. Inhale into that upper chest as we spiral open, lifting nice and tall. With each one, see if you can get a little bit more scoop. Can you feel that mobilizing into that low back? Can you get a little bit more rounded through the upper back? Can you feel that nice length between the shoulder blades and the spine? As we inhale, spiraling open and up, how much can you turn those palms up towards the ceiling or beyond? And can you feel that as a nice opening stretch through the upper chest area? Good. We'll go ahead and shake that out. And we're going to come down all the way down to the floor, and we're getting into our quadruped position. Going to spread fingers nice and wide, ground the palms, extending elbows fully without locking. I want to go ahead and tuck the toes so we can feel that big toe kind of tucked underneath, a little bit loaded so we feel a little bit of a stretch at the big toe joint or maybe in the arch of the foot. Our inhale is going to allow our hips to sink back into our heels. Our exhale, we're rocking forward and loading into the wrist joint. So I'm seeing how far can I rock forward feeling that wrist, both wrists. Inhale, I'm rocking back. Feeling the big toe. Can I feel some stretch into the arch of the foot? I want to go slow with the breath. Nice, slow inhale. Nice, slow exhale. Now, as you're rocking back, lightly turn your tail. Imagine you got a tail, you're sticking it up towards the ceiling as you feel your hips sink back to your heels. As you're coming forward, we're exhaling, drawing that navel in. We can start to get a little bit of a scoop of that pelvis. Inhale, I'm turning that pelvis towards the floor, sticking the tailbone up as I sink hips down to the heels. Exhale, as we're rocking forward, we're scooping that pelvis. Should create a little bit of some rounding of the lower back. On the next one, go ahead and we'll come back to our starting point, just resting hands and knees, toes tucked. I want to come back into that same breath, but we're going to take out the rocking forward and backwards. We're going to inhale into the belly, allowing that pelvis to tilt down to the floor, getting a nice big sway in our low back. Exhale, drawing that navel in as we scoop that tailbone. Just doing pelvic tilts to start with. So I want to isolate this movement at the hips. To start with, I'm not getting all full cat-cow. I just want to work into that low back area. So nice inhale, fill up that belly, nice and full, allowing the pelvis to tilt towards the floor. Exhale, feel that belly button reach towards the ceiling. Pulling up and we're scooping, seeing how much can you feel that nice mobility stretch into the low back. Does that feel tight and restricted? And does it feel a little looser after you get 5 or so breaths in there? Now we're going to start to add in some spirals through the elbows, basically our bowls of soup that we just did. So as we inhale, still got our pelvic tilt. So pelvis is still moving in the same way. As we inhale and pelvis tilts to the floor, I want to spiral those elbow pits so that they're facing forward towards the head. That should draw the shoulder blades down towards the hips. The head kind of comes up. As we exhale and scoop, we're spiraling those elbow pits internally and feeling the shoulder blades round up over the rib cage, getting into our nice big cow. Inhale, let those elbows spiral as your chest drops and the head lifts. Exhale, push as you internally spiral. With each exhale, I want to continue to scoop and continue to reach through the forehead like we're trying to touch this imaginary point in the middle. See if you can feel that stretch or length from the low back, from the hip going into the low back all the way up to the base of the skull. I don't want to force it, but with each one, can you get that stretch to draw a little longer so that you feel it throughout that back line from the base of the skull all the way down to the hips? Or do you feel it more specifically in 1 or 2 spots? Say the low back is just so tight that you can't feel the base of your skull. If that's the case, as we get into this exhale, spiraling, reaching, I want to stay here. And we're going to take some light inhale, and on our exhale, we're going to continue to scoop our tailbone and try to reach our forehead to that tailbone for 3 to 5 breaths. On our inhale, I'm not changing my position a whole lot, but on the exhale, I'm trying to reach them a little closer together. After 3 to 5 breaths, we're going to go all the way back through our full range. Nice spiraled forward. Going back and forth into that cat-cow. And then I want to come into our inhale where we're staying in our cow. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to bring some breath, light breath in. But as we exhale, we're going to see if we can add a little bit more tilt towards the floor, not too much. I want to make sure we don't go into pinch or pain in the low back. But more importantly, we're going to work on, can we spiral those elbow pits further out, either forward or out and away, and feel how the shoulder blades want to slowly pack down towards the hips. So nice inhale, and then on our exhale, and then on our inhale, we're spiraling into it a little bit more. Exhale kind of allows that softening. Inhale, we're adding in that rotation and spiral to see if we can get deeper. And I want to see if we can, again, bring that inhale breath more into that upper chest. So we're inhaling into the upper chest as we're spiraling those elbows out and away. Good. All right. We're going to shift into our V-sit position. Getting nice wide V-sit. This is where I want to actively reach the back of the knees like we're trying to touch the floor, and at the same time we're reaching the top of our feet back like we're trying to touch our shin. And the more active we can be with the feet and the knees, the more you're going to feel your quads tighten up, and we'll be able to feel this mobility deeper in the hip socket. Hands get to come behind the hips, ground down to the floor, and we're going to spiral those elbows out and away. Feel the shoulder blades pack down and back. Nice tall lifted chest. And we're going to do basically our bowls of soup through our feet. Focusing on the knees. How far can you spiral the knee out and away as if you're trying to touch the floor on the outside of your leg? How far can you spiral them in like you're trying to touch your knee to the inside of your legs? And I want to work this with our breath, so we're going slow. I want to exhale in both directions. So as we come to the center, we're inhaling. As we spiral internally, we're exhaling. Inhale as we come back to center, and then exhale as we spiral externally. And with each one, we're seeing if we can get a little bit more rotation deep through that hip. And how does that feel in that hip socket? Does one hip feel a little tighter, a little achier? Is it a little crunchy in there? Is it a little clicky? Those are all things I kind of want to pay attention to because that can give us some indications for some issues like compression within the hip that we want to address. Good. Now we're going to let our hands come off the floor and we're going to start to work some light folds. Nice inhale as we're tall. Exhale, seeing how far can we reach both hands evenly. Inhale, bringing us all the way back up. Something I want to pay attention to on this is I don't want to drop in my head. I don't want to round my back trying to reach down to the floor. I want to keep the spine nice and tall. And we're just sliding those hands forward, trying to keep as much height in our spine as we can. Inhale brings us all the way back. Notice, where do you feel this most? Do you feel it in the back of the legs, back of the knees, down in the calves, or do you feel it more in your low back area? And again, going slow as we can with our breath. Now that we're getting a little loose into it, we can start to go a little bit side to side, so we can deviate off center, reaching a little bit towards that right foot. Inhale as we come back up, then reaching towards the left. I want to keep my hands square with my shoulders here, so I don't want to reach with my hands and my chest is still facing forward. I want to see if I can turn chest, turn shoulders, reach evenly to that side as we exhale. Inhale as we come back up, rotate to the other side and do the same thing. As we're getting into it, we can start to move a little bit further off center, reaching more straight to the heels. We can even start to reach a little bit beyond the knee if that feels good and juicy. Notice if you're able to go a little further on one side than on the other. And kind of measure it by how far your hands go, noticing how well are you able to maintain squareness in your shoulders. I want to have an idea of how far we're going from a visual standpoint, as well as how does it feel different on one side compared to the other. You may find that the side that feels tighter is actually the side that you have greater range of motion on, and the side that doesn't feel as tight, you're not able to go as far. That's an important thing to pay attention to, because where things feel tight does not always mean that that your range of motion is limited. In fact, sometimes where it feels tight is an indication that you have excess range of motion, not too little range of motion. So it's important to notice the difference between those two things. I have limited range going to my left. It is also a little bit tighter, especially in the hamstring. As I reach to the right, I get a lot more tightness and tension in this opposite side left. But I also get a lot further into my right side than I do into my left. I can barely make it to my ankle on my left side. I can pretty well make it all the way to my heel on my right side. And as I'm getting in a little bit more reps, I'm starting to get a little further and deeper on both sides. Still limited on this left side, but I'm able to get a little bit closer. I definitely feel that more on that back line of the hamstring. All right, we're now going to shift into our shin box. I'm in left side shin box, left palm is down, spiraling that elbow out and away. And I want to start with breath, without movement, just breath. And I want to focus that breath into the side that the hand is on the ground. So I got left hand down. I'm going to focus that breath into this side body space. Side body space is a little bit in the front through the abdominals, a little bit in the back into those into the low back muscles, and side body out through the side. So I want to feel that breath expanding like a balloon. It's not just moving forward, it's moving out in all directions, but it's moving more to the left side of my body than to the right. We can bring that opposite hand over just to kind of lightly touch in order, this is where we want to feel that breath moving into on that inhale. So see if you can feel, inhale, can you feel that expansion, blowing that balloon out wide? On our exhale, we're drawing that navel up and in. Inhale, we're seeing if we can inflate that balloon back up again. Now I want to continue to feel that expansion through that wall on that side of the low back. And then we're also going to focus on our opposite hip. As we inhale, feeling that expansion out on that opposite side, we're reaching our back hip like we're trying to touch the floor. As we exhale, drawing navel into spine, that back hip lifts, reaches forward and lightly scoops so that we feel some stretch through the front of the hip as we exhale, drawing that navel in. Inhale, feel that breath expand the walls out and away as you're reaching that hip to the floor. Exhale, it's kind of like everything's syncing up together. Hip lifts up, scoops, locks in the front of that hip as that navel draws in and you feel your spine get nice and tall. Inhale, that back hip reaches to the floor as we're feeling that expansion. It's like one of these is kind of like we're becoming a little bit soft and mushy. The other one is as we exhale, we're coming into nice, solid, locked in hip, tall spine, belly drawn in. Once we get a good 5 to 10 on that side, let's go ahead and switch to the other side, and we're going to do the same thing, starting with just that breath. So palm grounds to the floor, spiraling that elbow pit out and away, feeling the shoulder blade pack, nice tall lifted chest. We're focusing just on the breath, so I have my opposite hand again coming to that side body space. Seeing if can we feel that expansion of that wall pushing out and away like a balloon. On the exhale, drawing navel in, feeling that balloon get smaller, and then immediately, can we feel that balloon inflate? How does it feel on this side? It's different than the other side. This side of my low back, my left hip is my tighter hip, and my right side is my tighter space for the low back side body. And so I can feel this. It's more difficult for me to sit upright because of the hip, and I feel a bigger stretch just related to the breath. Inhale into this side body space, especially in that low back area. This is where I don't get my breath doesn't move as well in this area of my body. And again, that's related to knee surgeries, injuries, and things like that. So this is an area in which I'm constantly working to improve. And if nothing else, I'm trying to maintain so that it doesn't get worse. Once we get 5 breaths in, we're going to add in that back hip. So as we inhale, feeling that belt, that expansion out and away, we're also reaching that hip down to the floor. As we exhale, drawing navel into spine, we're lifting that hip, reaching it forward, and then lightly scooping into it. Inhale, expands out through the abdominals as that hip reaches down to the floor. Exhale, scoop, locking in that hip, drawing in that navel. Again, inhale is going to feel a little softer and mushier as our body kind of softens into feeling that expansion of that inhale. Exhale brings us into nice structure. Scoop, locked in hip, belly's in, tall spine. Once we get 5 breaths on that side, we're going to switch back across. I want to continue to breathe into this side body space. We're not going to move that back hip just yet. Instead, as we exhale, drawing navel in, we're going to do our hip opener where we lift that knee up to the ceiling. So as the knee comes down to the floor, we're breathing in, feeling that expansion through that side body space. As we exhale, drawing navel into the spine, we're slowly lifting knee up towards the ceiling. Again, on that inhale, it's kind of like we're feeling that expansion of the wall. I want to feel that balloon getting expanded out, but the rest of our body is kind of getting a little soft. And then as we exhale, drawing navel in, we're getting solid through that core as we open that knee to the ceiling. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Get a nice grounded palm, spiraled elbow, packed shoulder. Inhale, filling into that side body space. Exhale, drawing navel into the spine, lifting that back knee up towards the ceiling. Inhale, feel that side body expand out. Can you feel that nice stretch? Exhale, nice solid spine as we lift and open the hip. After 5, we're going to bring it all the way back to the other side. Now, I want to come back to feeling that hip drop on the inhale, exhale, lifting and scooping. So we'll start with that one, and then we're going to add our reach and rotation into it. So again, palm is grounded, spiraled elbow, packed shoulder, tall chest. Inhale, allowing the breath expands, reaching that back hip to the floor. On the exhale, drawing the navel in as we lift that hip up and scoop. And then we're adding in our nice reach with rotation. And as we reach, let that hand spiral up. Palm turns up towards the ceiling. I'm trying to reach those fingers as far as I can, and I'm spiraling through that palm, extending that elbow up to the ceiling. As I inhale, I can spiral it back, palm back down as I bring that hip all the way to the floor. Exhale, lock that back hip in first, and then reach, spiraling palm up towards the ceiling. So notice I have this nice spiral. Palm is down as my hip is down. As I lift my hip, I am spiraling that palm up towards the ceiling. Once we do 5 on that side, we're going to switch back to the other side, do the same thing. Grounded palm, spiraled elbow, packed shoulder. Inhale, expanding out through the abdominal, back hip reaches to the floor. Exhale, lifts, scoops, lock in that hip, and then spiraling, nice spread hand, spiraling palm up to the ceiling, extended elbow as we reach. Inhale, allowing that palm to spiral down towards the floor as we bring the hip to the floor and breathing into that side body space. Exhale, navel into spine, lock that hip in first, spiral palm, extend elbow. gonna get one extra one because this side feels extra needy. We'll bring it all the way back to the other side. Now we're going to lift that hand off the floor, bringing that arm up and across. We're still focusing breath into that same side body space. The position of my body by bringing this arm up is going to keep this opposite side closed. So it's going to be hard to get breath in this side. But this side is more open, so that's where I want to feel that breath expand out and away through this side body space. So we can get a few breaths in just to get comfortable in this position. So opposite hand can come and just light touch to remind us this is where I want to feel that breath move to on the inhale. On the exhale, we're drawing navel into the spine. Inhale, as we allow that breath in, let that back hip reach down towards the floor. As we exhale, drawing navel into spine, we're going to lift and scoop that back pelvis. Inhale, pelvis reaches the floor, breath goes into that side body space. Exhale, navel into spine as we scoop. And on the next one, as we draw that navel in, as we lock that back hip in, now we're lifting through that elbow, reaching down through the floor through the same side hip, seeing how long can we get? Can we reach the ceiling with that elbow? Like we're trying to touch the ceiling. Inhale, shoulder softens as we reach that back hip to the floor. Exhale, lock that back hip in, and then reach to the ceiling. I want to see if we can feel that long stretch on that reach through that same side body space, maybe up into the shoulder as we're getting into our breath. So our breath, I want to feel getting wide, and then on our exhale, we're getting long. Can you feel a stretchiness in that area of the body related to both the inhale and the exhale? Inhale, wide. Exhale, long. Again, and continuing to get that back hip forward, scooped, so we have that nice little stretch here at the same time as we reach up to the ceiling. And then we can bring that back across to the other side. So again, outside hand is coming up and over. We're starting with just breath into that side body space. So hand gets to be placed. Can we feel that breath expand out like a balloon on the inhale? On the exhale, navel draws into the spine. This position, I get a lot more stretch just with that inhale breath in that side body space. Exhale. Navel comes into spine. On the next one, as we inhale into that side body space, feel that back hip reach to the floor. As we exhale, drawing navel into spine, we're lifting that back hip and scooping, feeling that light stretch through the front of the hip. We'll do that for 2 or 3 breaths. And on the next one, as we inhale, again, feel that expansion through that side body. On the exhale, as we lock that back hip, scooping it forward, drawing navel in, we're now reaching down through the opposite hip as we lift up through that elbow, seeing how long can we get through this side body. Inhale, how wide can we get in that side body? After 5 breaths. We're going to come back to the other side, and now we get into our folds. So want to keep the shoulders square to our shins, getting a nice inhale, allowing that back hip to reach to the floor. I'm still filling up that side body space on the inhale. On the exhale, navel comes into spine as that back hip lifts and locks forward. And then we're reaching with both hands evenly as we fold forward, staying light. Again, I want shoulders and hands to remain square together. Inhale brings us all the way back, letting that back hip reach to the floor as we fill up that side body wall. Again, I want to feel it moving wide. Exhale, navel to spine, hip comes forward, and then we fold. I want to feel a little bit of stretch in this back hip as we fold. And that's just going to be related to scooping that tailbone forward. If we scoop it forward, there should be a little bit of mobility load into that hip as we fold forward. And just like with our V-sit, I want to watch out for dropping head and shoulders and rounding the back. I want to keep the back nice and tall in the spine and just seeing how far can we slide those hands forward. Once we do 5 on one side, we're going to go to the other side and do the same thing. Inhale, let that back hip reach to the floor. Exhale, lift, scoop forward, and then both hands reaching even as we fold, keeping our hands square to the chest. Inhale brings us all the way back to tall, hip drops to the floor, reaching down, filling up that side body space with our breath. Exhale, navel to spine, scoop that tailbone, get that load in the front hip, the front of the back hip before we fold. And now I want to start to go side to side with our folds. Doing a nice shin box windshield wiper, going all the way to the other side. Exhale as we get a nice fold. Inhale as we bring it back up. Exhale as we spiral across. Inhale as we get across so that we're ready to exhale again as we fold. At this point, I'm less concerned about scooping that back hip forward. And we can also we're no longer worried about staying square with the shin. We're just kind of getting a little bit more exploratory. Where does it feel good and juicy? I don't want each one to be exactly the same. I kind of want to find where does it feel like I need to go? Where do I move well? Where do I not move well? In the areas that I feel like I don't move well, I want to see if I can creep into those spaces a little bit more. Can I reclaim some of that territory? And I want to go extremely slow with our breath as we're doing this. Once we get 3 to 5 reps, side to side, we're going to start to open up that shin box, allowing that back hip to slide, or back knee to slide open a little bit more, creating more space in our hips as we get into that fold. And doing the same thing on the other side. As we're going side to side, one little thing we can start to kind of focus on here is I'm seeing how far can I slide hands forward and reach. At the same time, we'll do this on the other side so it's more visible. As I'm sliding forward through my hands, I also want to think about sliding back through the hips. I don't want my hips to roll forward with my hands. I want to feel those hips sink towards the floor as my hands are reaching and extending forward. And see if that kind of draws out that length from the hip all the way up into the shoulders a little bit more by feeling that reach, letting the hips drop back towards the floor as your hands slide the opposite direction. And we're going to continue to open up that back leg more and more until we get closer and closer to what we would consider a yoga class pigeon pose. The more you're able to slide that back leg open, I don't want to force it, I don't want to go into pain, but as you're sliding it back, again, I want to kind of reach back. It's like I'm keeping that energy moving through the hips back as I'm counter-reaching through the hands. How long can we get from fingertip to toe tip? Without forcing it, without going into pain. Do one more, going side to side. All right, now we're going to get into our inverted position. So hands are going to be at hips or a little bit behind the hips. Fingers can be forward, out to the side, or back, whatever feels most comfortable. I'm going to go with fingers facing straight out to the side. And we're going to start with kind of an inverted cat-cow. So I want to start with spirals through the elbows. So we're going to spiral those elbows internal towards the body. Feel how that rounds the shoulders forward. Gets us this rounding in the upper back. We're exhaling here. We can also allow the pelvis to scoop so that we get some rounding into the low back as well. And then on our inhale, we're spiraling the elbows out and away, feeling that open up the chest. Feel the shoulder blades start to move down the rib cage towards your hips as your sternum and chest lift up to the ceiling. In exhale, we're rounding forward, scooping the pelvis. Inhale, lifting up as we spiral elbows out. Now this might be an area where you start to feel a little limitation with that inhale breath. I want to see if we can get that inhale breath moving up into the chest, up into the clavicular area, but because we are bracing palms down to the floor, that may feel a little bit challenging to do, especially if the chest is tight. So I don't want to force it. I want to stay within range in which I at least feel like I have the ability to continue to move into it. And again, I definitely want to pay attention to if it starts to make me feel a little anxious, lightheaded, anything that feels a little bit stressful. I want to stay under that stress. I don't want to move into it. With each exhale, we're seeing if we can get a little bit more rounding. Can you start to feel nice stretch through the upper back, down into the low back? As we inhale, can you start to feel some stretch across the top of the chest? On the next inhale, as we come up, I want to stay tall. We can go ahead and cross legs if that's more comfortable. Still grounded down. Elbows are spiraled out as much as we can. reaching down towards the floor. So nice, as open chest as we can get. We're going to do some breath in this position, and I want to focus that inhale, seeing if we can move that breath more up into the upper chest at the same time that we are externally spiraling those elbows a little bit more. As we inhale, or as we exhale, we can get a light softening, but I'm not changing my position. I'm maintaining those elbows out and away, but I'm just feeling a little squishier like I used before on the but then when I inhale, I'm actively spiraling those elbows, lifting the sternum taller, seeing if I can get a little bit more access. Can I bring more breath up into this space without it feeling triggering of stress or anything else? After 5 breaths, as you exhale, let's go ahead and allow that rounding, coming back into our cat-cow full range. Inhale, nice and tall. Exhale, allowing that rounding back. On the next inhale, as we come tall, I want to stay tall again, and we're going to do a little bit of light neck mobility. So still grounding through the palms, opened up chest. I want to feel this nice, open, lifted chest. We're going to start with checking our blind spots. So we're exhaling as we look over our right shoulder. Inhale as your head comes back to center. Exhale as you look over your left shoulder. As you're looking over your shoulder, open up your jaw lightly, slowly. Slowly see how wide can you open your jaw as you're turning and looking over your shoulder. Inhale as you bring it to center. Exhale, and then open the jaw as you're looking over the opposite shoulder. As you're doing that, do you notice if there's tightness and tension in your jaw or in your neck that is greater on the right side or the left side? And is it greater specifically when you open your jaw? That will be an indication that there's some relationship between the jaw and the neck. And if it's one side specific, if you have neck issues, shoulder issues, that's going to be relevant. I have pretty good mobility to my right. Very little active going on with the jaw. My left rotation is tight just by itself, and definitely tighter once I open up my jaw. So I have some relationship specific to that left side. Now we're going to get into our tilt and lift. So lightly tilting the head as if we're dropping our ear to the shoulder, but I don't want to drop it super far. So it's just a light drop, and then opposite ear, lifting and reaching like you're trying to touch the ceiling, like you got a piece of string pulling that ear up. At the same time, we can lightly push down through that palm. Inhale as we come to center. Exhale as we go to the other side. Pushing through that palm lightly. Again, I want that inhale breath to move up into the clavicle region on the inhale, and then on the exhale, we're lifting and reaching tall. Then last little bit is going to be neck rolls. And we're going to start very, very shallow, allowing the chin to drop down to the chest. We're going to then roll that right ear to the right shoulder lightly. Then our gaze will go up to the ceiling, and then left ear to the left shoulder, and then chin back down to chest. And we'll keep moving through those 4 points. And as we're doing it, we can slowly start to make it smoother, turn it more into a circle. And as it feels comfortable, as long as it is not painful, we can start to get a little deeper into that neck roll. Now, if you're feeling some crunchiness or crackliness, as long as it is not painful, it's okay to move into it. And we can kind of think of it like we're trying to decrackle the crackle. Once we do 5 in one direction, we're going to come back to our starting point and we're going to start shallow again. Chin to chest. Left ear then goes to the left shoulder shallow. Gaze goes up to the ceiling. Right ear to the right shoulder. And then chin back down to chest. And then we can slowly start to smooth that out and get a little deeper as we go, as long as it is not painful. Good. To finish up, we're going to go ahead and get on our back. We're going to make our nice big C shapes with our hands again. Knees can be bent, feet flat to the floor. Thumbs are going into the low back, index fingers wrapped around the front, palms pressing into that side body space. Again, inflating the abdominals like a balloon. Can you feel that nice expansion out and away on the inhale? On the exhale, drawing navel into the spine as you lightly cinch down the hands to create more resistance for the next inhale. This is a great assessment point to notice how well are you able to feel that breath moving on the right side compared to the left side, especially in the side body and into that low back space. As you're feeling that abdominal wall expand out and away, let's keep that part of the breath going, but we're going to allow our hands to drop down to our sides with the palms up. Now I want to bring that breath up into the ribs. Same concept. I want to feel that breath moving up through the chest, into the upper back, so it should be pressing into the floor and out through the side of the ribs. Can you feel that expansion like a balloon on the inhale? On the exhale, I want to feel all that tension melt into the floor. So our inhale, filling up, expanding into tension. Our exhale is now melting, allowing that tension to rinse off to the floor. Notice if your shoulders want to round up, if you feel tension wanting to hold in the shoulders, allow those shoulders to relax and release to the floor on the exhale. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, very slowly sit up. Take your time before coming to a full sit or a stand to make sure that you're not dizzy or lightheaded.